What's up, guys? I just got my thrust arm monoball upgrade for the 535 F10. So I went cheap and got just the monoball, not the whole replacement arm. Saved $100, couple $100 maybe. Black Friday deal, whatever. These go in, they seal on the back side, they have these spacers, pretty straightforward. And I've already started tearing things down over here. So getting these bolts off, obviously I dropped the cover, and then there's another plastic cover that goes in here that just gave better access. But these bolts, holy cow, if you've never experienced bolt stretch before, you will on these. So here's one of the bolts, and it's pretty interesting to have a bracket here holding the nut in place so it won't spin on you, and you just come in here. But I was really nervous about stripping these things with the types of heads that these have. I used the biggest Torx, reverse Torx I have is an E20, and that definitely fit, but actually what fit better was a 16 mil. It actually went on there a little bit better. And I used a breaker bar and started torquing on it, and it was moving, but I could not see the end of the bolt moving over here. So I'm spinning it thinking that I'm stripping it out, and so it took me a while to realize that that bolt was literally just torqued on there, and I was unwinding the bolt itself before it was going to pop the thread. So I threw some penetrating oil on there, but just kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, either this is going to break, I'm going to strip it, or it's bolt stretch. But I looked online, didn't see any notes about that, so thought I'd share that with you guys, especially if you're going to be pulling these out. So next, I'm not going to do this stuff on camera, but pop this end of the control arm out so I can see how in the world I don't have a press, so I got to see how I'm going to get that out of there. Guys, no joke. I had to get the bar off of my floor jack to get enough torque on this bolt to get it to move. That was probably the hardest bolt I've ever pulled. I have no idea how much force I had to put on that thing, but that's some leverage right there. Alright guys, I don't even honestly remember where I left off last, trying to get these things out. I ended up cutting one of the bushings out, thinking that the bushing itself was going to be replaced, only to find that it's the bushing housing that houses the bushing that needs to get punched out. And so if you guys are considering buying these as assembled units versus the just the bushing, or the bearing rather itself, rather than the bushing, I would highly recommend considering what tools you have on hand or what you're willing to do, because this is what I ended up doing, was going to Harbor Freight and picking up a 20-ton hydraulic shop press. And what that allowed me to do to remove this bearing, first I just used a press with a die, and this happens to be a riser for the lift, happened to fit in there perfectly to literally just punch this out, because this obviously sits wide. So with that out, now I'm just dealing with this guy here. Did a sawzall, took about 1/4 of an inch out in each length to be able to squeeze this and slide it out, and I wanted to kind of save this as best I could. So now I can use the old sleeve as a punch to push this guy in. So that's what we'll do next. Alright, this did not end up working. It's too weak, and as you can see there, it's bent, and so it wasn't able to apply even pressure. It's actually started to split. So I used again the riser, and then the center cap, some old diamond plate from the E30 to push evenly on this. I need to get a die set, but didn't want to spend another 80 bucks and wasn't sure of the exact size needed. But anyways, you can see here, I'm just going to put this down until this hits any part of it and not go any further past there, because there'll be plenty of room for the snap ring as soon as that gets set into place. So I'm going to get that in there now. There we go. Alright, so there's the groove for the snap ring. And I can't remember what they call these rings. They got some proprietary name. And there you go. So I'm just going to clean this arm up with the wire wheel, get this installed. And here is the other one. One thing to note, this thing is super loose. You can see it's got this boot as a dust shield for the bearing itself, and it allows motion from driver's side to passenger, but the fore and aft, if you will, as I heard it described on a video, is completely solid. So if I have forward or backward pressure, or maybe that's why they call it a thrust arm, if there's thrust, this thing is solid. Like, there is absolutely no play at all whatsoever. So this is going to allow articulation, but no movement on thrust. So that's the idea of this guy here. So here it is, all wire wheeled. Throw this in here, one-handed. So I'll get this straightened out, but put my spacers in there, throw my bolt. Got the nut held on the back side, and put my torque to spec, whatever spec is. I know there's some significant bolt stretch on this guy, but those guys aren't going anywhere for sure. Be tight. Give them hell, but not too much. And then button this thing up and take it for a test drive. Alright guys, just getting back from initial test drive, and holy cow, what a difference. So let me get in here and I'll share my thoughts. I showed me pulling into the driveway to just show you how nasty the weather is. It's foggy and rainy and pretty nasty out there. I had a lot of shimmy and shake at high speeds braking. That's why I went with this upgrade, to upgrade and replace the bearings or the bushings that were there with this monoball bearing. And so I couldn't really get into it too hard because it was wet. So I still would like to drive on some curvy roads and feel how the car engages initiating a turn. I can already feel that it's a little bit more responsive. But as mentioned in some of the videos, I think by Denon, who has the similar product, BMW engineers are going for a middle of the road, what appeals to the mass market. A lot of us who are tuning cars and doing things like this obviously are interested in higher performance, more feel of the road. And especially if you get up into the 5 Series, the type of person that was spending the kind of money on this car initially wasn't looking for a track car or anything to go out and hit the backcountry roads. Obviously it can if you want it to. It's got the power and it can handle, but not to the level of like maybe what some of us buying it at a later date would want to push it to. So anyways, with all that being said, I think this was the missing link to bringing the feel back to the road compared to what BMW wanted this to be like for the mass market. I'm actually glad I went out in the wet, because I got out on the freeway, was hydroplaning a little bit, got in on the brakes on purpose hard, and could actually, between the steering wheel and the brake, really feel the road, feel where it was pushing me, what I was up against in a rut. I'm actually very shocked at how much this made a difference, compared to the numb feeling that the stock bushings have. And it really makes a lot of sense. With that thrust arm, you're talking forward and back motion, right? And it's just gone. Like, you can feel everything. If there's any movement forward or back, there is no more play. It's solid now. And so it's just amazing how much that makes a difference. So really impressed with this. Anybody who's looking to really feel the road, be connected to the road. I know that's a complaint of BMWs as they've gotten older. The ultimate driving machine, that feel's gone. Well, this brings it back. The design's there, the engineering's there, the suspension's there. It's these soft, lame bushings that they're putting in it that makes the road feel numb. And I'm sure for a lot of older people who are spending God knows how much on these cars in the get out, that's what they wanted and that's what felt nice, but not for us. And this is pretty sweet. So anyways, that's my thought. Final thoughts on the install. Look, for me to buy the bearing alone, press out the old ones. The first one was a pain in the butt. I went with a Sawzall. It created smoke. It stunk. I've still got molten, bushing stuff in my pores. It sucked. Once I learned how to do it, pressing the actual rubber bushing out versus heating it up and cutting it, and then sawzawing that 1/4 inch so that I could shrink the housing and pop that out, and then pressing it back in. Honestly, it really wasn't that bad. When you're in the middle of a job and it sucks, and you're like, why am I doing this? But with the money I saved, I was able to get the 20-ton press that's going to be good for other jobs. And anytime I can spend the same amount of money and get a tool out of it and do the job myself, obviously I'm going to go for that if you have the room for that kind of thing. If you didn't have the press, it probably wouldn't be worth it, or you didn't want to get the press, because then you'd have to take it somewhere, get it pressed out, get them pushed back in. Probably really wouldn't be worth it. The other case it might not be worth it is if you needed a new control arm because the other ball joint, you had tons of miles on your car. Maybe it's easier, definitely from a time standpoint, way easier just to replace the whole thing. So anyways, I'm very happy. Wasn't happy that I got just the bearing when I was doing the job, but now that it's over, I'm very happy I saved the money and have the press. And you learn something new. I've never really pressed bushings in and out before, and so I need to get some dies. But overall, between coilovers, sway bars, these bushings are right up there with that upgrade. Totally right up there with that upgrade as far as changing your driving experience. Crazy. All right, guys. Thanks. See you guys later.